All right, guys and girls, today I'm going to be doing a topic on quadratic factorization. Quadratic factorization is one of the most basic concepts when you want to do quadratic equations, quadratic inequalities, nature of roots, quadratic formulas, and etc. in additional maths and further math. Okay, so let's begin. Before we begin on factorization, please note that there are actually 4 types of factorization. The first one is common factor factorization. Then there's also quadratic factorization. Then there's special algebraic identity, where you use the identity a squared minus b squared equals to a plus b, a minus b. And lastly, there's factorization by grouping. All right. So what exactly is quadratic factorization? Okay, first thing you must know is that factorization is the reverse of expansion. Okay, so for example, if I ask you to expand this, I get 2 times x gives me 2x, 2 times negative 6 gives me negative 12. If I were to ask you to factorize this, you should be able to give me the common factor is 2, and then what's inside? 2x divided by 2 is x, and minus, because I follow the sign, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now, this is my factorized form, and you notice that this is the same as this. So actually, factorization is the reverse of expansion. Okay? Now, and in a quadratic expansion, for example, I use x plus 7 and x minus 4. If I expand this, x times x will give me x squared. X times negative 4 will give me negative 4x. 7, positive 7 times x will give me positive 7x. And positive 7 times negative 4 will give me negative 28. And if I simplify this, I get x squared plus 3x minus 28. So in quadratic factorization, I'm going to teach you how to get from here, factorizing this, to get back this. Okay? So having said that, let's move on to the first example. How do I factorize this quadratic expression? Okay, x squared plus 5x plus 6. I'm going to draw this out. Now, I think they call this the matrix method. So look at this, x squared and 6. I'm going to write this down in this square here. X squared and positive 6, I'm going to write it here. So what am I going to think now? I must ask myself, what times what will give me x squared? So basically, x times x will give me x squared. Okay, what times what will give me 6? So I think there's 6 times 1, and there's also 2 times 3. So there are a few combinations, 2 combinations here. It is by trial and error that I'll use to find my answer. So if I use 6 times 1, I put a positive 6 here and I put a 1 here. Now, how do I get the answer here? Is taking 6 times x, because x times x gives you x squared. 6 times x should give me 6x. Okay, and x times 1 will give me x. Now, what do I do is take this 6x and plus this 7x, x. Okay, so 6x plus x will give me 7x. And this answer here must be the same as this 5x here. However, you can see that it is not the same. Okay, it's not the same answer. So I shouldn't use this combination of 6 times 1. So let's try this combination instead. Positive 2, positive 3. So 2 times x gives me 2x. 3 times x gives me 3x. And 2x. So again, I'm going to take these two and add them together to see whether I get this. Okay, 2x plus 3x, that gives me 5x. So now, how do I present my answer? This way and this way. So I'll get x plus 2 and x plus 3. And that is my answer. Okay. So let's move on to example 2. Now you can see in example 2, I have 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. So they're asking me to factorize this. Now, so once again, draw this out. This is 2x squared, and this is 15, positive 15. So I ask myself again, what times what gives me 2x squared? Okay, so it's most likely 2x and x. Make sure there is an x on each side, okay? Now, how about 15? 15 can be 15 times 1 and perhaps 3 times 5. I think that's the only combinations. So looking at this answer 13x, I think most likely it's going to be this. Okay, so I'll try out here 15 and 1. Okay, now what is 15 times x? This gives me 15x. And this gives me 2x. And when I add these two together, it gives me 17x. So that's not right then. So I guess now we have to use this. So maybe I'll try out 5 and 3 here. So 5 times x gives me 5x. 2x times 3 gives me 6x. And what is 5x plus 6x? It is 11x. Okay, and it's not right. So maybe I'll rearrange them. So I will try, what did I try just now here? 3 and 5. So what is 3 times x? It is 3x. And what is 5 times 2x? It is 10x. And what's 10x plus 3x? It is 13x. And I'm correct now. So how do I write it? Again, I write it this way and this way. So the answer is 2x plus 3 and x plus 5. Okay, so moving on, let's go to example 3. 5y squared minus 22y plus 8. So again, I draw this out. What do I write here? 5y squared and positive 8. Now again, 5y and y will give me product of these two, 5y and y, will give me 5y squared. And 1 times 8 gives me 8, and 2 times 4 gives me 8. So again, I have to use try and error and try. So the answer here is minus 22y. All right, so perhaps I'll go with this. Okay, after a while, you will be able to have the experience to tell which is the correct combination. So perhaps I'll go with 4 and 2. Okay, and this gives me 2y, because 2 times y is 2y, and 5y times 4 gives me 20y. And 20y plus 2y gives me 22y. But is that correct? No, this is negative 22y. So how can I rectify this? Okay, you must understand that 2 times 4 gives you 8, but negative 2 times negative 4 gives you a positive 8 as well. So there's always this combination that can give you the answer. So instead, I change this to minus 4 and minus 2. So minus 2 times y gives me negative 2y, and 5y times negative 4 gives me negative 22y. And this time, negative 20y and negative 2y gives me negative 22y. And that's correct. So again, this time I write it 5y minus 2, y minus 4. So it is this. Okay. So let's move on to the fourth example. X squared plus 12x minus 45. Okay, now we have a minus 45. This complicates things a little because we must remember that how do I get a negative number? A positive number times a positive number gives me a positive number. A positive number times a negative number gives me a negative number. Okay, so we must understand that one number, when we times two numbers together, one of them must be positive and one of them must be negative. So x squared is definitely x times x. Now, it can be 45 can be maybe 9 times 5. What else is there? 15 times 3. Okay, I think, and of course 1 times 45, but most likely it won't be that combination. So remembering this again, that positive times negative will give me a negative. One of these must be minus. Okay, must have a negative in it. But let's try this out first. How do I get 12x? I think from experience, most likely it will be 15 and 3. So I'll put 15 and 3 here. So I get 15 times x, I'll get 15x. And 3 times x, I'll get 3x. So I want a positive 12x, so it has to be 15x minus 3x, right? So I put a minus here to get 12x, and therefore I must follow and put x minus 3 here. And there we go, 15x minus 3x is 12x. Okay, and that's my answer then. So that is x plus 15 and x minus 3. Okay, and that's my final answer. So let's move to the final question. Okay, factorize the quadratic expression 2x squared plus 19x minus 10. So I write 2x squared here and write a negative 10. Again, it's a negative, so it has to be a positive times negative. So of course, we have 5 times 2 and 10 times 1. This has to be 2x and x. So what combination will give me 19x? Most likely it has to be this. So I'll put here 1 and 10. Nah, probably I'll put 10 here and 1. Okay, now what's 1 times x? It is x. What's 2x times 10? It's 20x. Remember I said we need a negative one? So it's 19x, probably it's 20x minus x. I get 19. So the minus has to come here, and the minus has to come here. So in the end, the answer is 2x minus 1, x plus 10. Okay, just to show you how do I actually check that I'm correct, I can actually expand this. So what is 2x times x? I get 2x squared. What is 2x times 10? I get 20x. What is minus 1 times x? It is minus x. What is minus 1 times 10 is minus 10. So it's actually 2x squared plus 19x and minus 10 when I simplify it. And therefore, this is just a check to prove to you all that the factorization has been done correctly. Okay? So, now, to summarize, there are some key points to note is that you must understand that a positive number times a positive number will give you a positive number. And a positive times a negative number will give you a negative number. And a negative times a negative number will give you a positive number. So check carefully what is the number you have. For example, look at this, minus 10. You must understand that it is minus 5 times 2 or minus 2 times 5. Okay, it cannot be a positive times a positive or negative times negative. All right, thank you.